And let me just ask you, as a leader, how important is reflection in the past important to you? And do you have a biblical precedent for this leadership practice of reflection?
Um, Reflection is something that I do often. In fact, one of the things that I do is daily reflection, because you would want to look at the decisions that you would have made during the course of the day.
Okay.
And usually by the end of the day, you may have more information about the circumstances surrounding the decision than you would have
Mm-hmm.
had at the time you made it.
Right.
So it's a good way before I go to bed to see whether or not I would have made the same decisions that I made during the day, given any additional pieces of information that I may have gotten after making the decision. So that is something I do daily. But I have a thing that I do from time to time called looking at the wake in the water. When a boat is moving and you look behind the boat, you usually see that white foamy stuff that comes from the movement of the boat, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows where you have come from.
Right.
And so I do that often, looking at where I've come from to where I am now. And it's part of my own reflection. And the last piece of reflection I do is an annual reflection on my birthday. Most people make New Year's resolutions and so. But I decide, or when I look at my year, my birth year, from one year to the next, I look at whether or not I would have achieved the goals that I had set for myself. And that usually determines the quality of the celebration that I would have. If I achieve nothing, then there is nothing to celebrate. And that's the sort of reflection that I do. In terms of biblical principles that guides that, unfortunately, I don't have any. you know, but it's just practices that I would have developed over the years that
Right.
has provided me with a sense of value and a sense of, sort of confirming the decisions I would have made. And I will use it as learnings as well to go forward
Mm-hmm.
during
Mm-hmm.
different periods.
Yeah, that's really good, Mr. Fortunate, because it's important to go back because it gauges, where you've been, as you say, and where we're going to, right? And in that light, as you reflect on your own business, what went well and what did not go so well in 2021 for you?
Um, well, in 2021, my year started off in England in the heights of COVID. I was
Mm,
in between consulting contracts. My mom was ill, not with COVID, but doctors couldn't work out what was wrong with her. And I actually
mhm,
said goodbye to her when I was leaving to come back home, because we thought it would have been the last time we'd have seen each other.
mm,
Uh, Through prayer and good or better medical practices, I would say, from a more informed doctor, they were able to determine what was the cause, and it was just the wrong medication she was taking. And so I left England not thinking that I'd see my mom again, but I left also with a new contract for a
okay,
consulting opportunity. And that was, the start of something great. And it's interesting that you should ask that question as well, because during the last two interviews, we spoke about my dismissal,
yeah,
and in the first one, I spoke about what I thought that my mission and my role was. And it
mm-hmm,
was interesting that this consulting opportunity uh, not only came at an appropriate time, but it was to do the same work that I had been doing through the
okay,
previous years.
mm-hmm,
So I became a mentor to 150 young persons, training them
Wow.
in life skills, leadership skills, entrepreneurship, and also vocational skills. And quite a number of them would have opened businesses as a result of that intervention. So, what that said to me was that God has put me back on the path that I
Yes.
was knocked off from,
Hmm.
and to do the same work but with greater autonomy. And this organization is an international organization
Mm-hmm.
whom I worked with.
Hmm.
So that was fantastic for me, because moving from a point where there was the expectation of grief to where there was joy, not only with my mother but also doing what I think God had charged me to do, was really a great joy.
Yeah.
What I would have done differently is, the interesting thing is that with this consulting role, I had to do several things that I had not done for years. So I was the country coordinator, or I'm still the country coordinator, but I was also the administrator. I was the marketer. I was, chief cook and bottle washer.
Hmm.
And so I saw where my administrative skills were lacking. So, you know, the advice from one of my mentors, which was, if you're doing something, do it once, do it good. I didn't do that. So I had to keep doing the same thing over and over
Mm-hmm.
in terms of
Mm-hmm.
maintaining the relationship with these 150 young persons. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
it was 100. I was supposed to do it 150, but we had 172.
Okay.
And so in terms of what I would have also gained is how to be a better administrator. And as usual, I felt a sense of connection with these young persons, and with the recognition as well that you can do great work to a small group, or for a small group, once you're guided by God. So that was um, my year, as it is, with regards to work and consulting. And it was an opportunity and a privilege to mentor these young persons. And they came from all over Trinidad, all over Trinidad.
You said a small group and you said 172. That's really a small group.
Well,
My
well,
word.